Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for my live reaction and analysis of Chelsea 1, Everton 0. 3 huge points, absolutely ginormous points in keeping our hopes for Champions League qualification alive. As you can tell, just me, myself, and I today. So I need you guys. 3 of you here, 5 of you here right now. Get involved, call your mates, call your friends, tell them all to get involved, talk to me in the chat. I want to talk about this game back and forth. It's a bit frustrating that it was once again, unfortunately, only a 1-0 because we've had too many of those. Now, obviously, 3 points is amazing, and that's what we're most happy with, of course. But yeah, it would have been nicer had we scored 2 or 3. But hey, there it is. And today was different. Today was very different. We've seen a lot of things today that we haven't seen for quite a while recently, actually. We saw Nicolas Jackson scoring a goal. We'll talk more about that. We saw Madueke playing left wing pretty much the whole game, and somehow being good. So I certainly didn't see that coming. We saw Romeo and Lavia in the starting 11 and playing 65 minutes without seemingly getting injured. So that's fantastic news. And probably the craziest thing of the day, we essentially had our 3 points saved by Robert Sanchez. I mean, have you ever heard anything like this in your life? Have you ever heard anything like this in your life? I don't think I have ever heard anything like this in my life. 3 points saved by Rob Sanchez. Seems unrealistic to me. Hello, everybody in the chat. JC says, come on, you Blues. Everybody, please get involved. Talk to me in the chat. I want your thoughts. I want your questions. I want your topics. I want your opinions. I want all of it. Come on, guys. I'm hyped today. I'm positive. We won a game. It's early on a Saturday afternoon. And finally, I don't have to worry about every single game that's coming for the rest of the weekend for us to pillow down the table. Dylan says, a goal will do for 3 points. Who's your man of the match? Good question, Dylan. Good question. You know what? I will save this message. And if you're sticking around, well, probably even regardless of you sticking around, I will come back to this when we get to that kind of conversation, if that makes sense. We'll talk about who my man of the match is, and we'll talk about who your guys' man of the match is. Yeah, like Kevin says, butt-clenching games. Yeah, they are butt-clenching games, and that's unfortunately what you get when you score a goal but fail to get a second. And then you just make it unnecessary and difficult by the end. That is unfortunately the problem. Horizont Hereditar. Not sure if that's a bait name that I fell for, but I don't get it. Anyway, he says, we're poor today. Against Liverpool, Newcastle, we don't stand a chance. Well, people were saying we're poor against Fulham. We beat them. Liverpool lost to them. So I'm not quite sure about that, especially because Liverpool will almost guaranteed win the league today. So how hyped, how into it will they still be next week? I don't know. I get you, though. Like, we weren't amazing, but I disagree that we were poor today. I think poor is a stretch. I think it was one of those games where we were somehow in the middle. Like, I think it was just a decent performance and a deserved win, I would say. Even if Sanchez did have to make 3, I would say, really good saves towards the end. But I think in a grand scheme of things, we weren't too bad. Kevin says his man of the match was Caicedo. Fair enough. Obviously, Caicedo, with Lavia being back in the team, starting from right back, inverting into midfield. Again, we'll get into that. Karan says, did Pedro Neto give prime Joe Cole vibes today? Ooh, maybe. I loved that run from him. I think it was still in the first half, wasn't it? Oh my God, he ran past everybody. It was so good to see. Unfortunately, kind of ran out of steam and whatever towards the end. But yeah, I think less. Joe Cole reminds me more of trickery rather than pace, and Pedro Neto screams pace to me. But I hear the comparison. I hear it. Please excuse me. Me, myself, and I, so I will have to take a drink at some point. Lucas says, today wasn't too bad. I agree. Hopefully, Liverpool won't have anything to play for, is what Kevin says. Madueke could have had 2 goals. What was the second that he could have had? Oh, yeah, no, he could have done. He could have arguably had 3 goals, remember? Like, he had 3 really good efforts today. He had that near post one after a corner that forced a decent save from Pickford, and he had the 2 right foot shots. That was unbelievable. I couldn't believe my eyes when Madueke, especially the first half, was an unbelievable effort with his right foot. And I say unbelievable, you know, within context that it is Madueke's right foot, whose right foot I don't rate at all. And this is something where you can see the improvement. If you look at Madueke when we first signed him compared to now, and you compare whenever he does anything with his right foot, whether it's shooting like today or even sometimes crossing cutbacks, the improvement is astounding. And it's good to see. It's good to see. Now he's improved at a lot of other aspects as well. Don't get me wrong. I think he's actually one of the most improved players since he joined. But the right foot shots, fair play. Unfortunately, obviously, it didn't go in. Pickford made a good saves. But, you know, I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. Daniel says, big up yourself, Daniel. Appreciate you for tuning in. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'd appreciate it. Luke also says, Caicedo was class. Absolutely. Kevin says, I can't believe I gave up on Cucurella. What a turnaround. Well, I can't believe you gave up on him either. Now, I will always big myself up. For the rest of my whole life, I will big myself up that I was one of the very, very few that did not turn and give up on Marco Correa. Now, I will be honest, and I have to hold my hands up to that extent, that I came to the point towards the end of that first season of his. I was like, ooh, it's gotten so bad. It's gotten so toxic. The fans don't like him. They boo him every time he touches the ball. I've spoken about this many times when I was Dortmund away, and every time he touched the ball, he got booed by a few fans. Not everyone, mind you, not the whole stand, but a few individuals. And I just felt it got so toxic, and I don't like the toxic environment around my football club. So I thought maybe it's just better if he leaves. But, well, thankfully he didn't, because he's now absolutely phenomenal and one of my favorite players in the whole team, if I'm being honest. Maybe even my favorite. So, you know, fair play, Marco Correa. Lucas says 2 shots with right foot. Yeah, exactly. Same, Kevin. Absolutely. Karan says probably the worst game played by Palmer all season. He's sulking so much. He doesn't even make runs now. Example, the Caicedo shot, which he had to take all by himself. Cole Palmer. Cole bloody Palmer. You know what? On this very note, Karan, let me quickly get up a picture of Cole Palmer so people, you know, that potentially will join us as we are talking here, know what we're going to be talking about, because Cole Palmer is becoming a problem. And I mean that in the nicest way and the least possible disrespectful way possible. I really mean that. We love Cole Palmer. We support Cole Palmer. We and I believe that Cole Palmer will find form again and will be the same Cole Palmer that we saw last season and that we saw at the beginning of this season. I am very sure that he will get there once again. But at the moment, he's becoming a bit of a problem. And the fact that we put ourselves in a position where we had João Felix as this kind of backup or replacement to Cole Palmer in case of injury or bad form. And then we got rid of João Felix before we ever needed him for that is one of the most stupidest things any club has ever done and anything that I've ever heard of, if I'm being totally honest. Like, I would have so wished to bring João Felix on for Cole Palmer at halftime today. Do I think João Felix is absolutely amazing? No. But the last few games that he played before he was shipped out to AC Milan, where he's now having a miserable time, he was good and he tried really hard every time and he was, you know, working his socks off, playing well. And we needed that. We need that option. We need that option of someone else. I mean, we only subbed Palmer off in the last second today. And who came on for him? Kiernan Dewsbury. That tells you everything you need to know. Even if you bring on Sancho, even if you bring on Tyreek George, who I think you could bring on else in those central areas for him, it's a different style of player. Like João Felix is a very similar type of player to what Cole Palmer is, which is why on the one hand, signing João Felix in the first place was stupid because we spent way too much money on a player who's way too similar to our star player, meaning he won't get many minutes. But when you take away, okay, now we've already signed him, now we have him, then it is actually a useful player to have, a useful backup to have. Because sometimes, especially when they're so young and so inexperienced as Cole Palmer is, they might sometimes dip out of form. They might pick up an injury. And then you have a replacement. But we just did the worst of both worlds, really. And it's absolutely shocking. Now, Luca makes a fair point. Usually it should be Christo replacing Palmer. But yeah, obviously, Nkunku is a complete waste of time. And he should have been the one to have been shipped out in January, not Felix. How much was João Felix? Kevin says. I think 45 million, something like that. Plus the 11 million we paid for that 6 months when he was on loan with us in 2022. So over 55 million spent on him in total to use him less than 12 months. So great. But yeah, you can see it on screen, guys. Cole Palmer is goalless in his last 17 matches. And this isn't just Premier League. He also got a few Conference League games and unfortunately remained goalless in those as well. 1,382 minutes without a goal. It is slightly concerning. I can't lie. It is concerning. And like Haran says, he doesn't even make runs. Now, I've seen a few people, including... Oh, are you guys? On my end, it's not showing up like there should be any issues. I hope it's fine. Let me know, guys, if anybody else is experiencing issues. Please let me know. I hope not. Like my system, from my end, it's not showing me any connection issues or anything. So I hope it's okay. People get involved in the chat and let me know if anybody else is having issues. I will get to that as well later, Daniel. Stick around and I will get to this question a little bit later. Ashan, I will get on to Romeo Lavia as well. Daniel says, I think Chelsea will miss out on Champions League. I think damage has been done. We need 9 points out of 9. I don't think we need 9 points out of 9, personally. Also, don't we still have 5 games? Pretty sure we still have 5 games, not 4 games. So we 9 out of 12, maybe. I think 8 out of 12 probably do it, but it depends on who we get those points against. If we get a draw against Newcastle and Forest, but beat Liverpool and United, that's enough. Will we beat Liverpool? Will we beat United? Yeah, a whole different conversations. But yeah, just to stick with Cole Palmer. How is everybody? A stream is fine from Kevin's Ed, and that's very good. I thought it was just me. His stream was buffering a lot. Okay, so JC says he's also having an issue. I think, guys, this is a YouTube issue, or maybe it happens to be on both of your connections ends, because usually StreamYard tells me when there's issues on my end. So I hope it's not my end that's causing it. My apologies if that is the case. Stick around, and hopefully YouTube fixes itself. But yeah. What does everybody else think about the Cole Palmer situation? Fine for Luca as well, which is nice. Yeah, what does everybody think about this? Because like Karan's initial message says, I want to highlight it once again. They said, fine now. Very good. Thank you, JC. He doesn't even run. Now, he does a lot of dropping deep and trying to get himself on the ball and trying to like help us alleviate pressure and pass through the press and whatever. But then he receives it, passes it sideways, passes it backwards, or plays a switch ball to the left wing, which... Okay, it's not an easy ball, but not a very much contested ball. I need to change this picture for when I need to turn my camera off. Excuse me. But then he just doesn't move. Like, you see everybody else in the team, whether it's Jackson, whether it's Madueke, whether it's Neto, whether it's Enzo Fernandez, everybody that's one of the kind of attacking 5. They drop, they receive the ball, they lay it off, they make a run. Especially today. I'm not saying this happens every game, but today that was the case. But Cole Palmer was the only one out of all of them that dropped deep, passes it off, and then just stands still, doesn't do anything. He had a couple of moments where he could have taken a shot. Even the moment that Karan mentions here, for example, that Caicedo shot, which he had to take all by himself. Now, on that one, I wasn't so like 1,000% like in full agreement with you that this was on Palmer. I felt, why did Caicedo choose to shoot him by himself rather than lay it off to Palmer? But I think 6 months ago, or this point last year, Palmer would have said, my ball, and would have told Caicedo to leave it, but he doesn't do that now. So I just think there's a lot of issues. Now, obviously, it's a mental thing in terms of just a bit of a block and a bit of the poor form has lasted a bit too long. And it's probably got in his own head. But I think what we need to focus on and what is important to mention, and Kevin has mentioned it here, Palmer has played a lot of games too. What we're experiencing here is Cole Palmer, who was at Manchester City, very much a backup, who got minimal minutes. Extremely rare that he got a start. You know, obviously at the very beginning of the season that we signed him, he started a Super Cup final for them. But the season before, they basically never started. Very, very little. And if he got a few minutes off the bench, it was minimal. 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there, 5 minutes here. But doesn't really get a lot of games. And then he comes to Chelsea. And ever since then, has basically played every single game that he was fit and available for. Except the first half of the season, the Conference League. Now, this is the problem. Obviously, last season, Chelsea were not in Europe. So Chelsea didn't have to bother with these midweek games. At the same time, as much as I say we weren't in Europe, we made the semi-final of the FA Cup and we made the final of the Carabao Cup. So because of that, we actually didn't have that many less games. Now, still a few less, but it's not like we had every midweek off last season and have a game every midweek this season. That's not quite the full fair comparison. Now, if we still made it far in the Cups this year, plus our Conference League run, then it would be a pretty dramatic difference once again. But because of the Cups last year and no Cups but Europe this year, it's not crazy far off. But in the first half of the season, of course, Cole Palmer was rested for every single Conference League game. He wasn't even included in the squad, so he never traveled. He was never in the squad for the home games. So he had his rest, and he was still good in that first half of the season. Then he obviously picks up this injury, starts struggling from late December. But we can't just sit here and say only a Cole Palmer issue. Like, the whole team started struggling, similar period to when Cole started struggling, right? But then he picked up this injury, and ever since this injury, I think his rhythm of playing has kind of changed. He sometimes plays a Conference League game, and then he comes off the bench in the league, and then he starts the league game, but then he's still in the squad for the Conference League games. And it's just not really worked. And I think what you're seeing is a very young player who's still, I think, 22, maybe he's turned 23 by now. I need to look. Going from basically never playing extremely limited minutes, and most of his, exhaustion coming from training while he was at Manchester City, to playing near on every league game for over 18 months, for 21, 22 months, 20, 21 months, 20, 21 months. And I think you're just seeing the results of that. I think you're just seeing the results of exactly that. A young player who wasn't used to playing all the time, going from not playing a lot at all to playing every single game. And you need to, this is why, when some people get angry at, like, say, Tyreek George, why isn't he starting? On the one hand, I agree. On the other hand, you need to slowly bet them in, because otherwise they either end up like Wayne Rooney and are done by the time they're 27, or they end up like Mason Mount and basically don't have a career anymore starting from 23, or you lead them through it and they have a career until they're 35. It's a really difficult mix. By the way, a lot of people have just joined. I assume we've just had the Lewis Gebrselassie, Carefree Lewis G, that's what I should call him. Right. Big up yourself, Lewis. Big up everybody that's tuning in. Shout out you guys. And speak to me, guys. I want everybody that's tuned in, 161 of you, talk to me in the chat, please. Where do you stand on Cole Palmer right now? Is he becoming a problem? Because we obviously don't have the backups. We don't have João Felix anymore. And Kunku is the worst player I've ever seen. And obviously Dewsbury Hall, we shouldn't even talk about. So we don't really have a solution to when Palmer isn't doing well. Like, we couldn't really take him off today. But I really want to know where everybody else stands on this topic. Treya says, really don't like Palmer playing central. He drops too deep. Okay, this is an interesting take. The whole him playing too centrally. Now, obviously at the beginning of last season, the majority of last season, he played right wing, drifting centrally with the right back, then overlapping, creating the width from that area. Nicole Palmer, bloody hell. No goal Palmer is more accurate right now. But then you also got to think the end of last season, when we had our best run under Pochettino, the last few games of the season where we kind of salvaged the season a little bit and went from being 9th, 10th to being at least 6th. He actually played centrally already the whole time. Now, still he had a fullback wide of him with Gusto, but because he essentially didn't play very differently Gusto than what Neto does right now. Because obviously, remember, Pochettino already started doing the Cucurella inverting into midfield thing. So that's why I'm really not sure if say, putting Palmer on the right would all of a sudden make things better. Now, within Maresca's system, definitely not anyway, because then the right winger doesn't have enough support and Palmer couldn't move around the way he wants to and should. But even if we went back to a system where that would allow that to happen for him to come inside and have then a fullback overlapping him, I still don't think he'd be in the right moment right now. I just don't think... I disagree with what I've seen in the chat here, by the way. Lucas says he seems to not really care, in my opinion. I completely disagree with that. When you see his celebrations, when we score, when you see how happy he is, when you see how not like angry... I mean, I guess not really caring also slightly coincides with not looking angry when being subbed off. But, trust me, Cole Palmer is not in a position where he doesn't care. But I still hear it. And JC makes a good point. The 2023-24 Pedri effect, where Pedri just played too many games. Mind you, Pedri played a lot more games still than Cole Palmer. But Pedri played so many games that he got injured, and then he was just no one for a year. And now look at him. One of the best midfielders in the world again. But it was too many games too quickly for him. And I think, unfortunately, Barcelona will suffer a similar fate with Lamine Yamal at some point. I just hope it doesn't end up in an ACL injury and potentially ruin career like with Ansu Fati. I hope it stays within reason. I don't really get the love fest for Lavia. He plays once a month. Ooh, that's an interesting one, EJ. I will keep this, and I will hopefully talk about this again later. Jug, I'm going to call you Jug. Yug. Sorry, I'm not quite sure how you like your name pronounced. He says, Palmer needs one goal to get his form back. He's overthinking everything. No, I completely agree with this, by the way. And that's why it's a bit of a mental blockade. And then he's probably getting frustrated with himself. He's getting frustrated with the game. He's getting frustrated with sometimes probably teammates in moments, right? I completely agree. But at the same time, you saw Nicolas Jackson today, and he did get his goal. A great goal. Again, we'll talk about that. A great goal. But then he has another moment where he's essentially one moment with Pickford, and he doesn't even touch the ball. I think he tried to meg him, and he didn't even touch the ball. So it's like, it doesn't solve everything, getting that one goal. But I'm still in agreement, though. Pukar says Palmer should have been taken out for a few games. He probably should have been, but at the same time, if you're Enzo Maresca, right, and you're under the amount of pressure that Maresca is under, whether it's to win the Conference League or even more so at the moment, finishing in the top 5 of the Premier League, you're not going to not play Palmer, are you? Like, as much as maybe he should have done, I agree with you, Pukar. I also understand from the manager's perspective, if I would be the manager, I'd probably play him as well, because I'm like, my God, I need a win. I need goals. I need everything I can get. We need luck to come back on us. And then you're going to start Palmer. But it probably would have done him better not to. Kevin says he does have some nice range of passes. Yeah, he does. It's not like he's gone from being the best player in the league and one of the best players in the world, to being absolute garbage. That's not happened. He still does good things. He has some nice, drops off the shoulder. Even the setup to the goal, a winner against Fulham, that had Cole Palmer involved in it. Do you know what I mean? Also today, like you say, the switches of play, a couple of the whipped crosses to the far post to Levi Colwill, who tried to then head it back into the mix in the central areas of the box. He still does those things, but it's more like in the decisive moments and in the movements. You drop deep, you get the ball, that's fine. You help us alleviate pressure, you help us beat the press, no problem. Drop deep, receive the ball, and then move, boy. Do you know what I mean? Like Enzo Fernandez does the other bit. It's like Enzo Fernandez has started to do his bit and Palmer's bit, and Palmer is trying to do Enzo's bit and his own bit, but does neither. So it's a little bit of an issue, if we're being honest. Oh, this is an interesting take. Karan says, was lucky not to concede a penalty, but top saves in the second half. Was he lucky to not concede a penalty? I've seen the Tottenham fan who I know tweet this, and I'm like, excuse me, why should it be a penalty? But now you've said this as well. Maybe this is something we should discuss a little bit later when we talk about Sanchez. Adam Bass, I'm just going to call you Adam. He says, I'd like KDB if he's available on a free. Cole can carry on learning off him. Now, I'm 100% in agreement. I would love Kevin De Bruyne. In principle, two problems. Number one, he has slagged us off on countless occasions since leaving Chelsea, when he first went to Wolfsburg, and then when he went to Manchester City even more so. He kept slagging us off, so I'm not happy with that. But also, unfortunately, according to Matt Law, and usually, usually he's not the biggest idiot, and when it comes to being informed by the club, he says we're not, look, we've decided not to sign Kevin De Bruyne. So, unfortunately, it's not happening, Adam, but I wouldn't be against it at all. Mark says he just isn't scoring. He's still linking up decent, in my opinion. Yeah, I agree. Decent, I think, is the right word, Mark, but I don't think well or as well as he used to. But I think that's fair. Ike says, I've never seen a player drop form as fast low as Hazard. He's not even himself. Worst form ever. Now, I don't know how old you are, obviously, bro, but if you were a Chelsea fan already back in 2015, I would disagree with you because we had our very, very best player then, and in my opinion, still one of the very best players that the Premier League has ever seen, Eden Hazard, have an even much worse drop in form. Now, obviously, Hazard had that ankle break in the first international break, and that was obviously part of the issue. I know that, but even still, we've seen this before to a much worse extent for a much longer sustained period of time, because Palmer's been poor for 4 or 5 months now. Hazard was poor that whole season. But anyway, EJ says, I'm just glad Sweden is not too far from England. Well, that is a fair point. Although, obviously, the other semi-final possibility was Vienna, which also isn't exactly far. Would have been a 2-hour flight. I think to Sweden is probably a 1.5-hour flight. So not much in it. Nine Ice Generation says Noni played well today. Excuse me, I wasn't trying to flip anybody off. I just had an itchy nose. My apologies, I should say. But yeah, Noni did have a good game. Guys, I think we've spoken enough about Cole Palmer, have we? Cole Palmer, not the greatest of form. It would be nice if we had someone to bring on instead of him or start instead of him, like João Felix sometimes. But unfortunately, we have Nkunku, who is awful, does not bother about anything, and the other person that we have is Dewsbury Hall. So the less said about that, the better. So unfortunately, we don't have much of another choice with Cole Palmer at the moment. But I really hope that the little break between the end of the league campaign and obviously the Conference League final, and then the Club World Cup in the summer, I hope that little break will really help rejuvenate him. Obviously, in an ideal world, he rejuvenates himself between now and then already. But at the very latest, at that point. Now, let me highlight, and I touched on it at the very beginning of the stream, but obviously the majority of you were not here yet, our lineup today, because it was a bit different to quite often. In the sense that Romeo Lavia was back in the team today. And this is why I want to highlight this comment here by EJ Santiago, my apologies. He says, I don't really get the love as for Lavia. He plays once a month. Now, this is true. And this is the big problem, that he only plays once a month at best. But when we have him, the difference is quite staggering. And I know we weren't like absolutely incredible as a whole today. I know that. But especially in the first half, and, Lavia then came off at some point in the second half, and also I'm sure got more tired as the second half went on with not having played a lot. The pace in our play is just much better when we have Lavia in the team. I think we're also a bit better at beating a press, but I don't think Everton really pressed us well enough today for us to really see that today. And he still had a few not great touches and a few not great passes, a few, but I think in principle, he just does so much for us. And I think I'm going to call you Madonko. because I'm struggling slightly with your first name. Vescoli? Vescoli is not actually that bad. Vescoli. So I hope I didn't butcher it too much. It says Lavia made a big difference. Caicedo was able to get much higher. And I think that's kind of the decisive thing here. Let me scroll up a little bit so we can see Caicedo and Lavia a bit better. Now, obviously, this is maybe the base shape, our usual 3-2-4-1 in possession. But obviously, there was a bit of this going on as well. Where, Enzo was kind of the left central midfielder, Caicedo was the right central midfielder, and Lavia was kind of the 6. There was a bit of that as well. It was a fluid between those two kind of shapes in possession, right? And like you say, it did allow Caicedo to go further forward. It allowed him to press on a little bit higher as well. And I just think the main big difference is how we defend. Because when you have Lavia there, Caicedo can sort things out around it. It's a bit like when we had N'Golo Kante and Nemanja Matic and what's his face, Antonio Conte. Now, Matic said recently that they had a bit of an agreement with each other where, okay, when I played with Kante, I was doing the left, Kante was doing the right, or the other way around, whichever way it was. And with Fabregas, they had a little bit of a different agreement. But I think in principle, it's Lavia does a lot of the sitting and staying, like Matic did. And then Caicedo, like Kante did, does the roaming and winning the ball back everywhere, especially to the right, obviously, because he was the inverting right back today. But everywhere, a bit to the left, a bit to the right, a bit higher up, a bit, just where we need him. And this is something that allows Caicedo to be even better, in my opinion, than he often otherwise is, because otherwise he's a little bit limited. Oh, I'm glad I didn't butcher your name. I'm glad to hear it, bro. I'm glad to hear it. What was I trying to say? Oh, yeah, that Caicedo just has a little bit more freedom of sorting things out, fixing problems, fixing holes, plugging holes in various areas of the pitch. While if there's no Lavia, Caicedo has to focus on the central areas of the pitch and has to hope others fix the other holes. So we definitely have a benefit from it. Obviously, Lavia, we've got to a point where I don't bank on him. I don't even bank on him starting next week. But if we can play with him, we are better. We are better with him than we are without him. That is definitely for sure. Treya, I will get to this comment on Chalobah a little bit later because he's bloody brilliant. EJ follows up his initial comment. He says, in your opinion, would you rather still have Lavia on the squad next season or give Andre Santos a chance? Ooh. Big question. Big question. Ooh, big call, Kevin. Are you sure? Are you sure? Because I was going to say the same as Mark. Have both. Why shouldn't you be allowed to have both? Because Andre Santos does not really do the defensive work. Andre Santos, he's not doing what Enzo Fernandez does this year either, but he's not doing what like Caicedo and Lavia do either. He's kind of playing a mix of those two. So I think Andre Santos will more be used in Enzo Fernandez's role, and Lavia will continue to be used in Caicedo's role. Now, we of course also have Isugo joining, and if Isugo, Andre Santos and Lavia all constantly fit with Enzo and Caicedo, then it's going to be a problem. But realistically, bro, we know Lavia isn't going to be fit all of the time. So I'd rather just have all of them because that period earlier in the season, like in January, February, when we basically didn't have a midfield, I don't want to put ourselves into that position again. I'd rather have one or two too many, one or two that are maybe unhappy by the end of the season and need to go because they want more game time. I don't mind. For the one season, I need depth. I need... Like, our midfield is our best area anyway in principle of ability, right? Enzo Fernandez, Caicedo, Lavia as well, if fit. But especially when we only had Enzo and Caicedo, they had to play every game. So we were, all scared they would get injured and then we'd be completely dead, basically. So, yeah, that's what I would do. Isn't better than Caicedo, Lavia, or Enzo. No, he isn't. Well, I think with Lavia, this is a tough call. I think he could, like, maybe in pure talent, maybe he's not better than Lavia, but he's done a lot of absolutely brilliant things out in France. And I'm really excited to just see him here next season because CAA Mafia, I just think don't judge yet. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's first of all very young. Second of all, I'm not sure how often you would have watched Strasbourg, but even if you have, it's a very different league. It's difficult to judge for us how to, portray what we see him do at Strasbourg into what he could potentially be doing at Chelsea in the Premier League. Just wait and see. I hope he comes back and is in the squad next season, and then we just go after that and see how it goes. That's my opinion. I'm buying Sancho for 25 million. For me, I will buy him because he's cheap and he's a good player. I'm sure he will improve next season. I completely agree, Ike Good Luck. I completely agree. So check. I completely agree. Karan says, what's up with the apparent 100 million bid for Caicedo? These owners won't even think twice before selling him to Saudi. Ooh, I disagree with that. I disagree with the last bit that they won't even think twice. If we get 200 million offered, then I think we'll consider it. But under 200 million, I don't think we'll even think about it for a split second. Honestly, a split second. Now, the if we're selling someone for pure profit because we're in bad need for money, if we don't make Champions League, I think we'll maybe be Colwell, if I'm being honest, especially with these rumors of signing Dean Huijsen, even if I thought Dean Huijsen was left-footed. I've since learned that he's essentially so two-footed that no one really knows what his preferred foot is. I'd love to know his answer to it. Like Ousmane Dembélé doesn't even know himself either, right? So I wonder if that's a similar situation for Dean Huijsen. But if we sign Dean Huijsen, I see him as the closest stylistically player to Colwell than I see him to Fofana. As much as he can do some of the things Fofana does, I think he's closer to Colwell. So I think if we really, really need money, then I think it will be Colwell that ends up being sold. And the reason I say that, CAA Mafia, I mean, Reece has been fit for a little while now, so maybe. But until a month or so ago, I would have said, well, no one's going to buy Reece because he's too injured. So the clubs that he'd be interested in, they won't want him because he's way too injury prone and wants way too much money and, way too much of a transfer fee. But I think Colwell, you could easily sell Colwell for 60, 70 million. No problem whatsoever. I wouldn't myself, but you could. And I think Reece James, with his injury record, I think you're lucky if you get 50 million. So therefore, if one of them is sold, I think it's more likely Colwell, but I just hope neither. Karan says it's not really judge anyone based on seasons outside the Premier League. Premier League is a different ball game. Yeah, that's also valid to an extent. Caicedo and Lavia played in Prem since they were 20. Santos is playing he's playing Lens when all three are fit. Santos gets no starts. I mean, yes, Lavia was doing that, but then Lavia spent 18 months permanently injured, in which 18 months Andre Santos developed. I think that makes a bigger difference than you say. Sorry, I need to go back to a couple of comments here by Football VAR. He says, I can't qualify the loss of Lavia this season. I think you wanted to say quantify potentially. Can't use Caicedo and Enzo as CMs in the Premier League and get success. I mean, you can look at it, but maybe I see your point, unless we play a back five. You mean in terms of defensive solidity? Well, I think because of the way we use our two central midfielders, where Enzo pushes into being one of the number 10s anyway, and then a defender pushes next to Caicedo to perform create a double pivot. I think I don't fully agree, but I can maybe see where you're coming from. And then you also say, I rate Andre, and he can play the Lavia role. I mean, he can, I'm sure. I think he can play all of these roles, but I think Andre Santos has a real knack for a goal. So I think if you play him where you play Lavia, I think you're wasting a little bit of Andre Santos' ability and talent. While I'm not as sure if he's quite as secure on the ball, especially for the pace and the physicality of the Premier League, that I'd want him as the deep sitter yet. Now, maybe he can develop into that, absolutely. But I think to start with, at the beginning of next season, I would rather him be a bit of a roamer than I'd want him to be the sitter, because the sitter is where if you make a mistake, it's the most costly. Like if Enzo Fernandez makes a mistake in the 10 role, not that big a deal. If Lavia or Caicedo give the ball away in their roles today, bit of a big deal. You know what I mean? But I see you. Kevin says I would pass on Sanchez for Esteval. Well, we already have Esteval. It's not like either or. And also Esteval will largely play on the right. I mean, the fact that Madueke was used on the left today is actually throws in a somewhat interesting spanner into these works, really, because obviously Neto, useless on the left, decent on the right, can certainly become better next season. Esteval will be one of our right wingers. And I think it's kind of between, do we keep Madueke as a left wing option? Or do we keep Madueke as a left wing option now? Or do we sell one of them? And I think then you're more likely to sell Madueke because we sign him for less money. Therefore, it would be easier to sell for profit. But I wouldn't quite think that far ahead. And let's just see how it goes. I would sell Levi for the right price and the right replacement. Yeah, we better not sell Reece. That's what I think, Mark. That's what I think. I say if someone comes up with 50 million for James, sell him. Yeah, I mean, I disagree, but I know a lot of people do think that. Is there a chance that Sancho, Madueke, and Sterling will all be gone by next season? Ooh. Now, I don't see Madueke getting sold if we decide not to buy Sancho. So I think it's either or between them. Now, I'm not saying definitely only either or, but I think at worst or at best, whichever way you want to look at it, it's either or. I don't think both of them will be gone. I think one of them might be gone. And Sterling, I mean, Sterling is a whole separate issue where I'm terrified that he will not be gone. But bloody hopefully he will be gone. You know what I mean? Bloody hopefully, because that would be an absolute nightmare if he wouldn't be gone. I mean, recent midfield is hard to watch. Sometimes more, sometimes less. If we had 3 more players on Cucurella and Caicedo level and consistency, we win the league. I agree. Cucurella and Caicedo have been our most consistent players. I agree. We need a better manager. I can't stand seeing Reece James midfield. He's limited there. Mate, Reece James is limited everywhere because Reece James in his best position can't run enough to be fit. Reece James playing a defensive right back is too bad defending his back post. He's never understood the concept of it. And playing in midfield, I think he needs to get better. I think Reece James, if he keeps playing in midfield, will become better and better and better, and people will have less of these issues. But I see what you mean. Ipswich have started well, have they? I'm not watching it yet, if I'm being honest. I might turn it on after this. Oh, against Newcastle, these lot are playing. So that would be huge. If Ipswich could get a result, that would be huge. Because Ipswich, in theory, and only in theory, if they win, I think, all their games, and I think West Ham lose all their games, there is still a small chance that Ipswich and West Ham will play each other on the last day, that Ipswich could stay up, which would be crazy. But, yeah, I wouldn't back on it too yet. Why can't we just play a 4-3-3 and let Palmer play right wing the way we let Reece James as starter too? Because Reece James' hamstrings can't handle that. And frankly, neither can Malo Gusto's, and then we have a situation where, shit, we don't have a right back, now what? I see what you mean, but I just think the 4-3-3 shape off the ball, it's just not a shape that works anymore. Now, obviously, the 4-3-3, you drop the wingers and then you can kind of create a 4-5-1 off the ball. I know that. But I think the angles in beating a low block are actually not more helpful, because if you do that, if you play what you're suggesting with a 4-3-3, you know what? If I move this around into a 4-3-3, let me just do that, right? Let's just make Neto the right back for this scenario. We put Palmer at right wing. We have Enzo as a left center mid. Let's put Caicedo as the right center mid for now, and Lavia as the central CM. I assume this kind of 4-3-3 is what you were thinking about. If you do this, and then now obviously Palmer can come in here, but he's not going to be there. He's going to have to drop in this area, which means you're stopping one of these ends. You're kind of in the way of this guy. Sure, you then let him overlap. Okay, and then you can still create that 4, but then you're in a similar attacking scenario to what we are in now anyway, because you're not going to want Palmer to stay here. Maybe he finds a bit more space if he can cut inside, sure. But I just don't think any of our right backs have the legs to do this consistently. And, well, Gusto is terrible at crossing, and Reece James just can't do the running. And I also think you make Cucurella look worse if this is the role you give him. If you don't let him do inverting midfield, I think Cucurella looks much better that way. So I see why everybody's talking about this, but I'm just personally not fully in agreement. But there you go. I mean, that's football, isn't it? That's part of the fun, that we all have slightly different opinions. I will try to get a few more, excuse me, guys, messages, so we, before we take a bit more of an all-round dive into this game. Reece James is an elite ball striker. Yes, he is. Maybe 2-3 clubs can bid 70, 80 plus 175k just for Colwell. He ain't getting sold. I doubt Tosin and Trevor Webbs. Yeah. No, I'm only saying that for Colwell if we are in deep money trouble. That's the only scenario in which I can see it happening, because he's obviously an academy player, so therefore his pure profit would do a lot for the books. But yeah, I'm pretty sure Tosin and Trevor Chalobah will unfortunately end up getting sold. For Tosin, less unfortunately. At least we signed him for free, so profit there. But as for Trevor Chalobah, in my opinion, a bit sad. Probably 4-4-3. Yes, we should. With a double pivot. Yeah, but a 4-3-3 with a double pivot isn't a 4-3-3. A 4-3-3 with a double pivot is a 4-2-3-1. And that's what we played for years and years and years, and that's the reason why no one plays it anymore. But I see it, though. If Palmer comes in and let Reece overlap, you still get a box 4 midfield. Yeah. No, in your principle, yes, but I wouldn't call that a 4-3-3. I would just call that a 4-2-3-1. But yeah, if you're calling it a 4-2-3-1 and you want that, fair enough. We don't invert Cucurella because everyone is scared of Colwell defending outside. Yes, no, I know that. I'm aware of that. But if we had another good left centre-back, then you could play Colwell as a centre-back, someone else as the left centre-back, and let Cucurella invert into midfield. Problem solved. But there you go. You've got to be rage baiting. You've got to be rage baiting. Ukrud, please tell me you are trying to rage bait me. Bloody hell. You're not telling me you actually still want Kunku to play. Get in the bit. Get in the bit. Branthwaite is a talent. Hope he's on the list. Natural defender. He's a talent. He's a defender, absolutely. I would probably prefer Huijsen. And do I see the necessity in buying both? I'm not sure, but it all depends on price, but I think that's a good idea or not. Cole deserves more time. He has not been as bad as other defenders. Trev was really good, looked very comfortable. I agree. It would have been hilarious if Reece James straight swapped for Lavia in the midfield and we kept more right back. That would have been hilarious. That would have been bad. I wouldn't have been a fan of that. Even me, as much as I defend the whole playing Reece in midfield at times, as much as I defend that would not have been good, Ross. Jackson was not very good. No, scored a great goal, though. You think Colwell has another level in him? I think Colwell has another level in him. You're too young to give up on him. I agree completely. I don't want to sell Colwell. I'm just saying what I'm kind of thinking. If the club is in money trouble, the easiest one to sell for a lot of money for pure profit is Colwell. That's what I'm saying. Who remembers Palmer's pushing Neto off the ball proper Chelsea? Yeah, Doucoure, how many beers you had, son? That's what I'm thinking. But yeah, let's look at these overall stats, shall we? We only had 0.98 XG, which is not that much. It really isn't compared to what's their name? Everton's 52%. Also, giving Everton under David Moyes 46% possession is honestly surprisingly more than I would have expected. And you can see from the 60th minute onwards, the last half an hour, we didn't do anything. We genuinely didn't do anything once we started making subs, really. But once we took Madueke off, we were absolutely woeful, really. You can also make a case. This is also when Everton made their triple sub, so maybe it had also to do with that rather than just us dropping off. But I think it's just us being scared of conceding goals, and that's why when the opposition start pressuring us and we're only 1-0 up, our team and our players, they're a little bit scared, and then they'd rather see it out. And to be fair, today they did, so fair play to them. If we look at the stats, right? Let's look at the first half and the second half. 0.49 XG in the first half. Nicolas Jackson's goal in the 27th minute, only having 0.09. Still more than Iwobi's goal for Fulham last week, which makes no sense because it was at least 8 yards closer. So I don't understand this at all, but there you go. Great finish from Nicolas Jackson. What a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful goal from Jackson that was today. I mean, honestly, I didn't know he had that ball striking in him. I genuinely didn't know he had it in him. Because, honestly, where has he been the last 20, 21 months since joining us? If he can shoot like that more regularly, no problem whatsoever. And I think he's got to score 25 goals next season. Something that maybe I should highlight. Let me actually look for a tweet regarding this. I just need to scroll for a second. It's by Tom Coley, who's been on the channel once or twice in the past. Unfortunately, he's very rarely available, so that's why we haven't had him on since. But he says Nicolas Jackson is the first Chelsea striker to score 10 or more Premier League goals in consecutive seasons since Diego Costa in 15-16 and 16-17. Now, obviously, Diego actually had a bad season 15-16 and only barely scored over 10 and scored 20 the year before and 20 the year after. And the only other players to do this in scoring 10 or more league goals in consecutive seasons are Cole Palmer last season and this season already, and Eden Hazard. Now, this doesn't take away all the issues that we've had with Nicolas Jackson. Absolutely not. And he's also not today had his best game. But he scored a great goal, and he scored a great goal that got us 3 points today, which is absolutely vital. So if he can do more of this for the last few games of the season, I think we're all going to be fairly happy. Now, Tom did, I think, an explanation tweet below. Yes, this says a lot about what Chelsea have done post-Costa, but it's still impressive. Jackson is 23 and absolutely brilliant value for money. Yeah, I'm in complete agreement with Tom. Shout out to you, Tom. He's holding up the ball today was horrendous. Yeah, I agree with that. And this is usually one of his biggest strengths. But when he received the ball, I don't know if he got just bullied by the defenders a little bit or if his touch was just off it. It just wasn't really happening for him in that sense today. But yeah, still the first half, we had 5 shots, 3 shots on target. They had 1 shot. Not sure when that was supposed to have happened. But anyway, I think close to the end when Sanchez then made a good save again. And then in the second half, we had, funnily enough, the identical amount of XG in the second half as we had in the first half, 0.49 in both. Everton had a lot more in the second half than they did in the first. Well, I say a lot more, actually, only 0.06 more. Felt like more in the second half from their perspective, I will be honest. But there you go. We had 4 shots on target. They had 3 by the end. We should have had more than that, if we're being honest. 5 shots in total. I would love to see the stat comparison by the 60th minute. I would love to, because I think by then we'll have almost the same XG and the same shots, and Everton will be significantly lower down. So, yeah, make of that what you will. Obviously, we have we had actually more XG from set play than Everton did when they are the team with the most set piece goals this season so far. So that is very, very interesting. That is very, very interesting. But we need to talk about Rob Sanchez today, guys. Made 3 saves, stopped 1.26 XG today. So he did a good job from that perspective as well. Absolutely. By the way, guys, hit the like button for me right now. We still have well over 100 people tuning in right now, 130 people watching, and we've only got 24 likes. Please go down below, hit that like button for me. It really helps me out. Let's get to at least 50 likes. Just one click of a button that doesn't cost you any money or any time, and it really helps me out. So I'd really appreciate that. Of course, if you want to spend money, if you want to get involved, use the super chat function for a question, for a topic, for just support. If you want to, of course, you don't have to. But yeah, as for Robert Sanchez is a bit strange, isn't it, guys? Robert Sanchez is a bit strange because he had that moment in the first half where he tried to catch the ball, dropped it around Beto, and then scrambled after it like a madman. Somehow, thankfully, got it, but essentially had his howl of the day already. But then after that, he actually got better and better. I saw him play left foot long balls absolutely fantastically. I was like, excuse me, Rob Sanchez, where on earth is this speed? He played one on the left foot out to Enzo Fernandez, who had dropped wide to the touchdown on the left. Enzo heads it back, and we saw a really nice attack. Really good to score from. Fantastic from Sanchez. And the save at the end, 2 of the other saves before, really, really good. You know, as critical as I am of him, as much as I don't like the guy, as much as I want him to be sold this summer or at least be second choice going into next season, he did good today. Rob Sanchez, you saved us 3 points today. Obviously, Nicolas Jackson's goal scored it, and then Robert Sanchez's save saved them, because it might have equally has been one of those one-all draws that we've had this season. We've had way too many of those. But yeah, I want Petrovic back too, JC. But today, Rob Sanchez did good, so a little bit of credit has to go to him. Collecting crosses was very good today, absolutely. Kevin says, I don't know how to feel about Sanchez. I don't know either. CA says, Sanchez best game today, absolutely. We're going back to talking about Ipswich for some reason. If the lab wants Chelsea, he scores and beats Newcastle. I mean, that would be very nice if he could do that, wouldn't he? Go on, the lab. Yeah, 1 win, 3 draws is more than enough. For what? I think we just need 1 win, 3 draws. We have a tiebreaker advantage on Forest. Let's look at the table, shall we? Tammy scored 15, then sat on the bench the other season, so nothing to praise standards are low nowadays. Ooh, no, I think this is harsh, Jonas. Now, yes, Tammy should and could be in this list if Tuchel didn't drop him. I agree with you. So I think in terms of praising or criticizing Tammy Abraham for his time at Chelsea, I think what you're saying is fair. But it's not Nicolas Jackson's fault that Tammy got benched, though. You know what I mean? And Giroud didn't score those many goals. That's all I'm saying. That's all. It just doesn't look fit yet. Allow it. Does he not look fit? Well, by the way, he got punched today twice. Now, he was kind of had his arm on almost on the neck of the opposition, mind you. But then the guy just punched him in the hand twice. Now, I'm not saying like this injured Jackson now. And I'm not saying like it's the worst thing in the world to punch someone in the hand. But obviously, it didn't really hurt him. But when you have these like, you know, forehead to forehead moments, and someone like does the smallest glimpse of a headbutt, no one actually gets hurt there either. But it's always a red card though. Jackson got punched twice and just nothing happened. No one cared. Even when I tweeted it, most people seem to think I was going overboard. So I don't really know. Have we scored a corner goal this year? Yes, we have. I remember it away at Fulham, away at Wolves early in the season. Nicolas Jackson scored from a corner. And I think there was a couple more. Certainly a few in the Conference League, but in the league, not so many. Well, a couple. I just think we need at least 76 points. 67. Ooh, I disagree with that. I think 64, 65 should probably do it, but we'll see. Sanchez will stop class in the second half. Credit where it's due. Look at Jackson's sprint. If anyone had hamstring injury, you know he's not ready. Yeah, but did you look at Jackson's sprint beforehand? I feel like he always looks like that when he sprints. But there you go. I bet my co-worker at Chelsea will advance further than Madrid in the Club World Cup. Will I win my bet? Honestly, I don't think so, but good luck to you, mate. Good luck to you. Now, I did highlight a couple of things here. So I want to see... Oh, yeah, Karan. This is good because we spoke about Sanchez earlier, didn't we? Or just speaking about Sanchez. This penalty. Does anyone think when we had this collision between Sanchez and Everton's left back Mikolenko, does anyone feel that could or should have been a penalty? Because I saw a Spurs fan tweet this, and I'm like, excuse me, how? Because Sanchez grabbed the ball as he collected Mikolenko, so therefore it's like he got the ball. Like both of these guys were running at the ball, one of them got the ball, and then they ran into each other. Like, I know Mykolenko pulled out the very last second, but that's goalie versus outfield player, right? So for me, like Kevin, I think it's never, ever a penalty. JC says, yeah, me too. I thought for sure that was aha, okay, you're talking about the punching. There you go. Yeah, I agree. I just feel Jackson's acceleration is not pointed. Yeah, this is maybe fair, bro. This is maybe fair. But I think that has nothing to do with him, having a bad touch or choosing not to shoot or whatever. But yeah, absolutely. I think this is, in general, something that fans don't give enough credit to. They think a player is injured, and then once a player is back, it's almost like back in the old days of FIFA when you gave the squad a fitness card. And then you're like, everybody's fit now. But that's not real life. You're injured, and then you miss training, so you lose sharpness anyway. Then you kind of get over the injury, but that doesn't mean your injury is fully perfect yet. It's just good enough to go again. And then you take another couple of weeks to get back into it, to find the match sharpness again, to find, to be fully over your injury, depending on what the injury was. I think this is something that many people often, don't give enough credit to, if I'm personally being honest. Now, a couple of things, because someone asked me, or someone was talking about how many points we need, and someone earlier asked me to predict our remaining fixtures. That's what we're going to do now. So currently we are now fourth, with obviously us playing and other teams not playing yet. Newcastle currently still 0-0, obviously. So they could go back ahead of us, would currently be behind us on goal difference if they did get a draw against Ipswich today. Now all of Forest, I think Villa as well, and Man City are all playing FA Cup today, so they're not playing in the Premier League. So for this weekend, we will at least, at the very minimum, remain fifth, so in the Champions League spots, which is always a good thing because the pressure gets bigger if you need to play a kind of a postponed game due to FA Cup and whatever, like a game in hand. If you need to play it and you need a win because other teams have won already, it's more pressure. So you'd rather already have the points and have the games than be in the other position. But yeah, obviously we are currently on 60. Newcastle currently on 60. I think by the end of today, they'll probably be on 62. So we'll have Newcastle on 62, City at 61, us at 60, Forest at 60. And I mean, are Villa still in it? Okay, they already played 34 games as well. They already had their replay game the other day. So I think you can already take Villa a little bit out of it, to be honest, with those 3 points. I mean, we might drop some more points as well, to be fair. And we haven't lost in 5, which is nice when you see it there. Win, draw, draw, win, win. Yeah, I think 65 will do it. 4 games now. We can't just get 5 points in the last 4 games. Can't be enough. Maybe it needs 67, Maybe it does need 67. It's really, really difficult. It's really, really difficult. Would you go all out for Ancelotti if he becomes available this summer? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think the last type of manager we need right now is Carlo Ancelotti. Carlo Ancelotti is amazing at dealing with egos, at dealing with talent, at dealing with having too many players for your own good, really, and still making it work. What Carlo Ancelotti is not good with is making players that aren't that good be good. Carlo Ancelotti does not have tactics. Tactics isn't his big thing. He knows not to play too high a line, but otherwise, tactics are not his thing. I'm not saying we need to have Maresca, but Ancelotti is not it for me. Jackson is not fully fit. Looking at our remaining matches, realistically, I don't think we make it to top 5. Now, I think, JC, the problem for me is only looking at our last 5 games, maybe you have a point, but I think you can't go into these games expecting even City, but also Newcastle, maybe Newcastle the most, but Forest, Villa behind us. You can't expect them all to win. So, yeah, it's going to come down to beating Forest, maybe, or at least not losing to them. Karan says, back on the Sanchez penalty thing, no, when he collided with the Everton player, he did not have the ball in his hand. That's why it could have been a penalty. Yeah, but he didn't have the penalty in his hand because when he collided with him, it bounced out of his hand. He was in the process, in the motion of grabbing it when they collided, really. And also, I think he kind of slightly pulled out as he was trying to grab it when he saw he was about to collide, like Mykolenko also slightly pulled out. So, but there you go. Now, let's switch this, what we're looking at on screen. Hopefully, Blues get the top 4. The Chelsea good win. Oh, well, 5th will do, but there you go. Watch the replay again. He did not catch the ball clean, lost it and collided. Could have gone either way. I mean, I guess it maybe could have gone either way, but the rule doesn't state that he needs to catch the ball. The rule in football is get the ball, touch the ball. He did, Mykolenko didn't. So therefore, it's pretty clear. And it's not like he went like studs up, dangerous play or anything. You know what I mean? So yeah, there you go. No, I don't expect them to win all, but I don't think we beat Liverpool and Nottingham Forest. We might not. I don't think we'll beat Forest either if they're still in it by that point. But I think we can get a draw in it. And I think, yeah, I mean, currently we're ahead of them. I mean, that's all I'm saying. I mean, obviously we have a game played more than them. But if we get to a point where we're level on points or ahead of them, that. And Kevin says Liverpool have nothing to play for. That's our hope for that one. Because if they're fully on it, if they needed a win in a title run-in, no chance. But let's look at our remaining fixtures, shall we? I will bring this up in a second. Obviously, we've got Djurgården on Thursday this coming week. Let me quickly find... No, that was wrong. This message here. No, you know what? Before that, my apologies. Dylan, I'll go back on this for a second. We'll talk about our man of the match first. We'll talk about our man of the match first because otherwise it's unfair. Because we need to get that done and then we talk about our upcoming games. Who was my man of the match? Trevor Chalobah. Trevor Chalobah was my man of the match. I think Trevor Chalobah had the best game of our players today. Great passing accuracy, many good balls. The tackle that won us the goal, I say that, only 1 of 6 long balls. Sounds much worse than I thought it was. But 2 out of 2 tackles, 2 out of 2 ground duels, 1 out of 2 aerial duels. Maybe I'm getting slightly overboard with giving him quite man of the match, but I thought it was very good. You could easily give it to Caicedo. You can give it to Caicedo every game he plays. You can give it to Correa. You can give it to him nearly every game he plays. Enzo Fernandez got an assist, and overall, I thought played a good game. 100%. I thought Madueke put a real shift in. I thought Neto put a real shift in. You could give it to Sanchez for the saves, but I'm going to give it to Trevor Chalobah. I'm going to give it to Trevor Chalobah. And on this very note, I'm also going to mention this comment by Tria M earlier on Trevor Chalobah. Should we keep Chalobah? He's our most flexible defender. Now, Tria, of course, I think we should keep him. Of course, I think that. But we're not going to. He's pure profit. He's not as good as Colwell, not as high a ceiling as Colwell, but he's 25 years old. He's really Premier League experienced. You can see it every year that he's here. And he could have played an FA Cup semi-final with Palace today, but he's here with us, and he had to agree to that. He loves Chelsea. He got so badly mistreated, so badly disrespected. Ipswich down to 10 men. My God. Ben Johnson, the type that scored against us, for them lot, gets a red card. Ipswich, I hate you. I absolutely hate you. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, he's absolutely fantastic. He's great passing. He's got a great pass in him. He's a great tackler. He knows his position. He can put in a shift at right back when he has to. Double yellow? Bloody hell. Do you know what I mean? Double yellow, like I said, double yellow. Can play right back if he has to. Right centre back. Play central centre back. Even if in real bad necessity, could even play midfield. Ricky says Chalobah is one of our most experienced players, UCL experience, and he bleeds blue. I agree. And someone said it as Fire Red said, most definitely over Badiashile. And I agree with that too. Does Badiashile have in principle better low ground passing? Yes, I agree. I think Badiashile does have that. But everything else, I think Chalobah is miles better than. But unfortunately, Matt Law yesterday or 2 days ago reported that Badiashile is on the list of centre backs that will not go anywhere. But Chalobah is certainly not on that side of the list. So, yeah. I just hope Chalobah gets a good move and gets a permanent move, not another loan where we can call him back from and stuff. Like, obviously, I'm happy that he's back, but for his sake, I don't want it. Yes, Ipswich are officially Chelsea haters. Yes, they are. Most teams' best performance of the season is against us, though. Everyone hates us. Literally, Max. Literally. I don't know why this keeps happening. Pisses me right off. I mean? But yeah, big up Trevor Chalobah. I thought he was fantastic. And as on this note, because I saw it on my phone earlier, Pice posted a couple of quotes from Maresca after the game. There's not many quotes. So let me just see how many there are. Not many. So we'll highlight those few that there are. So I'll highlight them now. One on Reece and Lavia and the other one on Trevor Chalobah. Maresca praises Chalobah. I think since he's been back with us, he is doing very well. Very well. He's playing games. He's helping us. He defends when he needs to defend. He's apt, and he's also building from the back. We are very happy with Trev. I know that he can help us. Well, we all know it. It's just the sport directors don't think so. On Reece James and Romeo Lavia, Maresca says, no doubt when Reece and Romeo are fit, Chelsea are better. When Romeo is fit, he's one of the best midfielders around. Yeah, when he is fit. So hopefully he is fit and remains fit. Now imagine what a turnaround and what an absolute shocker it would be for all of us. If Lavia just now got never injured again for another year or two. I would explain, Kevin, you don't have to. I thought Caicedo was banned for 2 matches. I thought a yellow card he got against Fulham, 10 yellow cards. So what happened with that is, and I'll switch to use this as the explanation. 1 second, JC, because I go to our fixtures. That makes it a little bit easier to explain. So unfortunately, FODMOB isn't helping me with how they're having the fixtures. So the yellow card suspensions, bro, they have a certain way of working in England, bro. So there's 2 cutoff dates. There's one cutoff date on, I can't remember. It's always the third match day. It's usually around the 1st of January. It's often like the 3rd or 4th of January, whenever that match day is finished. That usually starts on the 30th and finishes on the 2nd or 3rd of Jan. That's when the cutoff point is. After that, you don't get a match suspension with 5 yellow cards anymore. And then there is also this very cutoff point for 10 yellow cards. And this was this weekend. This weekend against Ipswich was the last game that you could get a suspension for if you picked up 10 yellow cards by that point. Because Caicedo had been on 9 for, bloody hell, I think since this game, maybe even since the Southampton game. And he didn't get booked until including this Ipswich game. He didn't get a suspension. And then from here on, from now, you would only get a suspension if you get 15 yellow cards. Between now and the end of the season, if you got to 15, then you have I'm not sure if it'd have a 3-match suspension potentially, but he'd certainly have a suspension anyway. But because he made it past that match day against Ipswich on April 13th, that's why he was not going to get a suspension for 10 yellow cards. That's how it works. It works different in every country and every league. It's very weird. I know Premier League fans, English people are not aware that this actually doesn't work this way in other leagues. In other leagues also, straight red isn't usually a 3-match ban. In a lot of leagues, straight red is a 1-match ban, like a 2 yellow cards. Unless it's extra bad, then you get a 2-match ban. You never get a 3-match ban in a lot of places. So there you go. So yeah. That's what was meant with reset. Is it true we have 10 centre backs? Some on loan, I get. What will happen when they get back? I'm not sure if it's quite true, but we're probably not far off it. But yeah, many of them will be sent out on loan again, and a couple of them will end up getting sold, which I think are going to be Chalobah and Tosin, in my opinion. Those 2 will get sold, the others will get loaned. But now, to finish it off, Daniel Knights. Let's predict our fixtures that are coming up for Chelsea. It wasn't shown on TV. Oh, was it? Okay, obviously I don't know where you're from, JC, but that wasn't shown on my broadcast. So whatever broadcaster you were using, they didn't know the Premier League rules. That is how you got bamboozled, which is fair enough. How could you know? If your TV tells you that, you're going to believe it, aren't you? So let's predict our games. I'm also going to include Djurgården. I think away from home, we're going to win 2-1. I think at home, we're going to win 2-0. And we're going to qualify for the Conference League final. Next Sunday, Chelsea are playing Liverpool at 5:30, which is not ideal because next Sunday is also an F1 race again, which I want to watch. So not ideal. That's probably going to collide in time again. So not great. But anyway, Chelsea play Fulham, Liverpool next Sunday. I think we're going to get a draw in that. Even if Liverpool are on the party, I don't think we're going to win, but I don't think we're going to lose. I'm going to get either a 1-1 draw or a 2-2 draw. One of them. So draw with that. So 1 point. So that would put us on 61 points from now. Newcastle away, I think we're losing. It's Sunday. It's 12 o'clock. It's as early as it gets in the Premier League. I think we're losing. So now we're still on 61 points, sorry. Then United, I think we'll beat them. And that will put us on 64 points. And then it's all about this Forest game. Can we beat Forest or can we not? If we beat Forest, we're definitely making Champions League, in my opinion. If we don't beat Forest, it all depends on this Newcastle game. If we can get a point against Newcastle, if we can not lose to Newcastle and Forest, I think it almost doesn't matter so much what happens in the other games. Because if they don't gain those points on us in the head-to-head games, I think we're going to be fine. So honestly, I would go to Newcastle and park the fucking bus and go for a 0-0. I would park the fucking bus and go for a 0-0. That's what I would do. I'm not saying Maresca will do it. I'm not even saying it will necessarily work. But I would do that. Go there and get a 0-0. And hope that Neto or Jackson or George on the counter or someone get your goal. And at best, you even win it 1-0. But that's what I would do. By the way, maybe something that people aren't fully aware of. Our home form right now is pretty phenomenal. Now, obviously, we lost that Legia Warsaw home game in the second leg, which didn't matter. But in the Premier League, Chelsea are now on 6 wins in our last 7. Who would have thought that, eh? Like, I certainly wouldn't have. So obviously you've got today. That is, one of those 7. Then you've got, that is the one that we didn't win. So out of those 7 games, we didn't even lose a single one. So it's 6 wins, 1 draw in 7 at home in the league, that is, which is very impressive. Then you've got Spurs who we beat. Then you've got Leicester who we beat. Then you've got Southampton who we beat. Then you've got West Ham who we beat. Then you've got Wolves who we beat. And then before that, 8 games ago is Bournemouth. So even that we didn't win. So we've got 6 wins and 6 wins and 2 draws in our last 8 home games, league home games, and then we lose one the 9th one ago against Fulham. We did lose that one, so somewhat surprisingly good home form, really. Like I said this to the guys in our group chat. It doesn't feel like we've won 6 of our last 7 home games and not lost, right? It doesn't feel like we haven't lost the league home game since January 14th, does it? But somehow we have. Newcastle have to play Arsenal and Everton too. Well, judging by Everton today, well, I mean, it wasn't super easy, but we should have beaten them more comfortably, realistically. But yeah, they still have to play Arsenal. But obviously, Arsenal, they will be focusing on the Champions League. They won't be focusing on the league. Maybe they'll get a draw out of it, at least, I suppose. Yeah, just we hope Newcastle drop points. They're certainly not dropping points anymore from here on out now, are they? Even though they're still not taking the lead, they're certainly not taking the lead from here on out. They're certainly not dropping anything from here on out. Yeah, literally. Ben Johnson, right, the guy that scored for Ipswich against us, just got sent off for Arsenal. I'll just show you this on camera, right? Can you see it? Will it focus? Come on, camera, focus. It's not focusing, is it? Anyway, against Newcastle right now, obviously got sent off. Against Arsenal, they lost 4-0 and he had a 6.0. Against Wolves, when they lost 2-1, they had a 6.4. And against Bournemouth, when they actually won 2-1, Ben Johnson had a 5.8 rating. Against Chelsea, 8.8. Brilliant. Cheers, boys. Cheers. But anyway, guys, I think on that, it's about time we wrap this up. I've had a great time. Thank you guys, all of you that have tuned in today. Please still hit the like button for me. Let's get to 50 likes. We're still on over 100 people watching. Just go down below, click the like button for me. It really, really does help me out, and it really, really helps me spread the streams out to more people, whether it's live right now or in the future. No, Kevin, you might not have been around the last few times. Kevin, we don't do ratings anymore. I stopped doing ratings. For a while, obviously, I was doing things by myself. I try to actually get people involved on every stream again now, but unfortunately, just none of the guys that I usually have on were available today. Now, I could get people I don't know, but then sometimes it goes well, sometimes it goes bad. It's weird when you don't know people, right? I don't know, are you going to be good on camera? Is your internet connection good? Is your microphone good? I don't know. So it's always a bit tricky when I bring completely, to me, new people on. And unfortunately, the people that I know, especially for home games, is often difficult because so many of the people that I know go to every home game. So for the away games, it's much easier. But for the home games, it's often a bit difficult. So no, we don't do player ratings anymore. But my man of the match was Trevor Chalobah. I did give him that. So yeah, but that's that, Kevin. Obviously, if you really want ratings again, you'll need to let me know. If you're like, no, Laurenz, you are the ratings guy. You need to do ratings. If you think that, put it in the chat every time. Put it in the comments after the streams. Tweet me. Let me know if you think that. But for the time being, I will not be doing ratings. JC, have a great weekend, guys. Thank you very, very much. Have a great weekend, everybody. Chelsea up to 4th for the time being, as long as Newcastle don't win. But even then, we will remain 5th in the Premier League this weekend because our other oppositions in this scenario are playing FA Cup this weekend. Unfortunately, then it's just informed us that Newcastle got a penalty. So didn't last for very long, but there you go. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys very, very much for tuning in today. Thank you very much for the support, for hitting the like buttons, for talking to me in the chat. I need you guys, especially when it's just me. The more you guys say, the more you elaborate your own opinions, the more questions you have, the more you disagree with me, and we disagree with each other back and forth. The better of a stream we have, the better of content I can produce for you guys, the better of a time we have. So thank you very much for everybody that has tuned in today. I appreciate you all. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Thank you very much for tuning in. Up to Chelsea, upwards and onwards, and I will see you next time.